When Roger Taylor writes a song, it's about your typical rock star stuff. Sex, drugs, rock and roll. Oh yeah, and British Royal Navy officers and explorers who lead expeditions to the Antarctic regions. A human body, next on Crown Jewels. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to PLD Projects Presents Crown Jewels. I am your host, PLD, and as always, we are traveling through the Queen stratosphere, listening to every song, every version of every song, and trying to figure out which version is the titular crown jewel, the best version of the song to put into our ultimate playlist, as well as we talk about a little history, a little bit of notes, quotes, and we get to see if this song slides into my top 10 Queen songs of all time. This week's song, A Human Body, the B-side to 1980's Play the Game. Now, this is going to be an easy crown jewel for sure, because guess what? There's only one version that I know of, and that is the actual B-side version. Makes it for an easy pick. So there you go. Spoiler alert, the crown jewel is the B-side version. But let's listen to it, let's talk about it a little bit, and let's rate it and find out more. Now, when I say listen to it, what do I mean? Well, in the show notes below, you'll find a Google Doc with a YouTube link on it. And when it's time, I'll tell you to pause me, click on that link, go listen to the song, listen to the version of the song, well, in this case, the only version, come back, and then I will talk about it. But first, let's get some notes, quotes, and history of the song. Now, as I mentioned previously, A Human Body was written by Roger Taylor. Now, as far as musician credit goes, there's some little guesswork involved. We don't have the actual little credits written down, but you can figure out most of them. But there are a few that are definitely shots in the dark because we just don't know for sure. And that's because Roger, a lot of times, especially in the later Queen era, when he would do his songs, he would at least demo them all with his own, like by doing all the instruments himself. And sometimes those instruments would just make it to the final copy. It's just how it was sometimes. In this case, we know Roger did the lead and backing vocals. He did the drums and the percussion. He also did the vocoder. Freddie Mercury was on his backing vocals. Brian May definitely also does backing vocals. Now, the rest, not quite sure. I believe the acoustic guitar is Roger. I want to say that. As far as the bass goes, I do believe this is John on bass, as you can tell me what you think after listening to it, but I think the bass has got a much more lyrical quality that John had, whereas Roger was definitely much more of just a straightforward ahead playing bass player. As far as the guitars go, this is where I think it might be different. This might not have Brian on it, or at least has Brian sparingly. I do think even the electric guitar work sounds like Roger's solo albums, so that would make sense that Roger's playing it. I do think Brian might have had some, frosting, as it were, some little like notes on top occasionally, some like wandering minstrel work at some points, but I'm not entirely sure on that. So I'll give it those are the credits as I see them. Maybe you have a different ear than me. Maybe you've listened to this song many times, and maybe you know what you're talking about more than I do. And if you do, hey, great, leave a comment about it. Let me know, because I'm not sure. I've also mentioned this previously on the podcast. When the game was being pieced together, according to Mac producer extraordinaire, Roger had written 3 tracks for the album, Coming Soon, which we've done, Rocket, which we've done, and this of Human Body. And Roger wanted A Human Body on the album and had wanted Coming Soon to be the B-side. However, Freddie and Brian tried to persuade him and were successful enough eventually to switch A Human Body with Coming Soon, despite Roger being very, very proud of A Human Body. I'll let my opinion go for now. I'm kind of curious what you have to think. I don't want to influence your listening. So when you listen to it, try to think what you would do. Would you have put A Human Body on the game and put Coming Soon as the B-side, or did Freddie and Brian make the right decision? We'll talk about that afterwards. Now, this track was never performed live, and quite possibly it could be the lyrical content. I mean, not too many rock and roll songs at a concert are going to be about Captain Robert Falcon Scott, a British Royal Navy officer who led 2 expeditions to the Antarctic regions. It's kind of an interesting lyrical choice from Roger. Captain Scott did lead the Discovery Expedition of 1901 to 1904 and also the Terra Nova Expedition of 1910 to 1913. And it was on the very first expedition that he discovered the Antarctic Plateau on which the South Pole is located. Yes, this song made me go on a wiki trail for Captain Robert Falcon Scott, and I probably wouldn't have known that otherwise, although he was a popular hero at the time for sure. Although most likely forgotten in the modern days comparatively. But not by Roger Taylor, who definitely wrote a song about him. Well, all right, it is time. So you're going to pause me, get that doc open, click on that link, listen to A Human Body, and come back, and I will talk about it.
They were talking in whispers.
All right, there you go. Now, we already mentioned the lyrical content, so let's get into the musical content. I love the shuffling beat. Roger, very famous for a shuffling beat. Doom, 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 doom. A little slower than that, but you get what I'm saying. Kind of like I'm in love with my car. He just kind of loves that rolling beat, that rolling rhythm that he just kind of keeps playing in the background. Gets almost syncopated at times. I love that with his work. It's very much aligned with where Roger's going in his solo work, as we're going to find out soon, because we're almost to his first solo album, 1981. We got this album. We're finishing up this album. We have the great Flash Gordon soundtrack, and then we're going to get into Roger's solo album. The first one, Fun in Space. Lots of fun there. Friday harmony and backing vocals are very nice, adding a nice little texture and juxtaposition to Roger's solo lead. I love the human synthy vocoder stuff that Roger does there. The first time, Roger definitely is the guy who embraced the synth stuff the most, despite I know the whole no synth thing. A lot of Queen fans were upset when that was thrown out the window. Well, Roger got that. He decided, well, if we're going to use it, we're going to use it. And he played with it definitely the most out of all the band members, I feel. Loves adding vocal weirdness to his vocals and things, and that's something you're going to hear for the rest of Roger's work for sure. I love the double time and the shuffle pre-chorus, really. Boom, da-da-da-bum, ba-da-da-da. I love that kind of like rhythmic change, kind of keeps it going. Got some great crunchy guitar after the "Get Out of This Movie Alive." Love that work as well. I love also, like, speaking of the lyrical content before, one specific thing was I love the lyrics. It sometimes happens in songs where they actually don't really make sense, but yet for some reason still work. Like, we got problems the Lone Ranger can't fix. The invisible man couldn't see. The invisible man, you couldn't see the invisible man. The invisible man could see fine. So what does that have to do with it? It doesn't make sense. But yet somehow when you sing it, it kind of feels right still. I don't know why. But I love that for it as well. So I do love even more the cacophony of Roger's outro, the panning background lead vocals. Yeah, been such a long time. Kind of goes back and forth. It pans around the song. He starts adding little bits and pieces. I love when they throw those little vocals in there from out of nowhere. Kind of just sounds like it's coming from nowhere. So yeah, it's a quick song. It's not very long. Not very pop-like, but it's kind of a cool little number. I can see why they took it off, to be completely honest. I can see why they took it off and put Coming Soon on it. But quite frankly, I don't know what your thoughts are. Let me know in the comments. I think I would have preferred this to Coming Soon. I think Coming Soon would have been a better B-side for Play the Game, and this could have been a nice little shuffling number towards the end of the album for sure, for me. But your miles may vary. Your miles definitely may vary for sure. Well, all right. That's that. That's the crown jewel. That's the B-side version. So what else we got to do? Well, we got to rate it from 1 to 11, because we always turn things up to 11 here on PLD Projects, and we get to see if it slides into my top 10 Queen-related tracks of all time. Spoiler alert, it isn't. It doesn't. I don't love it that much. At a scale of 1 to 11, I'm going to give this song a solid 7. And talking about what we just discussed, Coming Soon, I got a 6.5 as a reminder. So I do like A Human Body just a little bit more. But compared to the 10.5 and higher you need to get into the top 10 of all time, A Human Body just doesn't quite cut it. But still a fun one. I wouldn't skip it. I like listening to it. It definitely has a lot of uniqueness to it. So great job by Roger for sure there. So, all right, that's going to do it for us this week. Next week, we close out this era by talking about the live tours from the game. Definitely some fun stuff to talk about there. So stay tuned for that next week. And of course, as always, come back for more. You want to join us you want to get this stuff early? You want to get these Crown Jewel episodes early? You can join us on Patreon, patreon.com/PLD Projects. I do tend to record these things on a Sunday night or a Monday night. So you might get it. Once I'm done recording it, I throw it up on the Patreon. And maybe you'll get to hear it about a week early, potentially. And sometimes even earlier. Sometimes I do things 2 weeks before and I try to schedule things out. But my goal to you guys is if I can get it out there, I'll get it out there. So that's where the Patreon comes in. Again, patreon.com/PLD Projects. If you can't help out there, I totally understand that. I totally understand you can't support financially. Totally get it. But you can share. You can like. You can leave a comment. That will help me fight the almighty algorithm and let me add more content to this. I got some great ideas as soon as whenever we get done with all the Queen tracks. Got a lot more fun ideas we can do for sure. But that's well in the future at this point. Got a lot of songs to keep me busy for quite a while. But that's going to be it for this time. I hope you keep your human body warm as it starts to get cooler out. And stay tuned next week for the game live. Until then, keep yourself alive, everybody.